Hi, I'm Greg Howlett, and I want to continue to my discussion on the hymn, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. This is number 2, video number 2. In video number 1, we talked about adding 2 chords in front of the 4 chord, the minor 5 and the dominant 1, or for those of you that are up on theory, we call them the 2 of 4 and 5 of 4 in front of the 4. And you come up with a sound like this, which sounds really, really good. It's a really nice sound. So if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch it. But today we want to go on and use another technique, add another technique to this song, something that's really foundational. Probably should have started with this actually, because this is even more important. Basically what we're going to do is go through the song and change all the 5-1 cadences into 2 5-1 cadences. So we're going to insert 1 chord in front of the 5. Turning 5-1 into this. 1 extra chord, and it makes a big difference. Now you might say, well, where do you put the chord? Well, there's a couple things you can do. First of all, if you have a bar, let's say you have a bar of a 5 chord. The bar is let's say 4 beats in this case. 4 beats of a 5 chord. What you can do is borrow 2 of those beats, the first 2 beats of the bar, and make that a 2 chord, and then leave a 5 chord on the last. I don't know if I said 5. Let's say you have a bar of a 5 chord. Make the first 2 beats 2 and the last 2 beats 5. Okay? Or you might be able to borrow a beat or 2 from the bar in front of the bar that has the 5 chord. Okay? So you can either borrow from the 5 chord itself and turn what you borrow into a 2 chord, or maybe you can insert the 2 in front of the 5 by borrowing a beat or 2 from the chord in front of of that bar. Does that make sense? I'll show you in a second how we go about this. But it's a really, really good sound. You'll like it once you start using it. Now, in What a Friend We Have in Jesus, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-1 progressions. Okay? The first one occurs at the end of the first line, and you see a 5, and then it resolves to 1 starting the second line, or I should say phrase. You see another 5-1 progression at the end of the second phrase, and then you have a 5-1 progression to start the third phrase, and then you have a 5-1 at the end of the third phrase going into the fourth phrase, and then the song ends on a 5-1 progression. We can turn every single one of those into 2 5-1 progressions. Okay, let's play through it and show you how this works. We're going to go ahead and insert our tip from last week. That one. You know what? I'm inserting another chord that I shouldn't. Let me try that again. I'm supposed to go to 5 here, okay? But let me go to 2 instead. Okay, so there's your 2, 5. So what I did was there's a whole bar of a 5 chord, 4 beats. So instead of playing a whole bar of a 5 chord, I played 2 beats on the 2 chord, which is G minor, and then 2 beats on C7, which is your 5. Here it is again. 2, 5. Here, let's keep going. Okay, now what I'm supposed to do here is move to 5 at the end of that bar. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to borrow a beat from the 1 chord that starts that bar and turning it into a 2. 2, 5. Did you get that? So this is an occasion where I took a beat from the chord in front of the 5 chord, okay? Normally you would hold that 1 chord for 3 beats. I held it for 2 beats. 1, 2, 3. There's my 2 chord. 4 is the 5 chord. Keep going. 1. Okay, so there is a bar of a 5 chord to start the third line. I'm going to play 2 for the first 2 beats and then 5 for the second 2 beats. 2, 5, 1. There's our 4 chord trick. Now I'm supposed to go to 5 here, but I'm going to go to 2 instead. 2, and then I'm going to go to 5. Here's the last one. 2, 5, 1. Okay, of all the things I could teach you, this is probably the most common, the most useful of any harmonic change that you can make in a typical hymn. In this hymn, there's, let's see, well, we said there was 5 of these. In 2 of them, I borrowed a beat from the chord in front of the 5 chord. For the other 3, I divided the 5 chord into 2 and put a 2 chord on the first, what I borrowed, or in the first division. Okay, so here you got a 5 chord. I changed it in 2 and 5. Sometimes you have a 5 chord and you're going to borrow the 2 from maybe a 1 chord or whatever. In this case, a 1 chord in front of the 5 chord. So we have just a minute. Let me play the song now. I'm going to try to leave out all the other subs except for the ones we learned in video 1 and then this segment. So we're just going to do with those 2, but you'll see a dramatic change in the song. Here it is. Minor 5, 1, 7, 4, 2, 5, 1, minor 5, 1, 7, 1, or 4, 1, 2, 5, 1. Couple things. You notice probably I was struggling a little bit as I played through there because I kept stopping myself from inserting other chords. I only played the chords that are on the chart in front of you, and you hear how well it sounds, but we can make it a lot better, and that's what we'll get to starting in the next segment. The other thing I want to mention is in a lot of cases when I say 5, I really mean the 5 sus chord. The 5 sus chord means instead of having, in this case, it's a C7, but instead of having an E, the 3 in the chord, you have an F instead. And a lot of times when you're playing these like that, I'm playing a C chord, but the melody note is F. There's no E in there. And this rule works whether it's a 5 sus chord or a straight 5 chord. Either one works. Both sound good. This is something that you need to get used to applying in every single song that you play. This is not something you can overuse. This is something that you definitely want to use as much as possible. Well, I'll leave you with that. We'll see you again in the next segment where we start talking about color notes.